My curiosity about the practice of Reiki began when I had a robust conversation with a guest after we finished recording one day. I was very intrigued as she shared her Reiki experience and how she believes it helped her reconnect with her estranged son. By definition, Reiki has Japanese origins and stands for Universal Life Force Energy. Reiki practitioners don't consider themselves healers because the body is its own healer. They provide the extra energy needed for a deeper healing. Fascinating. I got an extra bonus with our next guest because not only does she practice Reiki, she also performs hypnosis and past life regression therapy. Health, wellness, career, relationships, and everything in between. We're removing the taboo from what really matters in midlife. I'm your host, Michelle Folan, and this is Asking for a Friend. Welcome to the show, everyone. My guest expert today is going to demystify regression therapy, hypnosis, and the practice of Reiki. Laura Giurdanella is a mindset coach and holistic wellness practitioner who is a certified health and life coach, clinical hypnotist, regression therapist, Reiki Master, and yoga teacher. Lord, did I miss anything there, Laura? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michelle.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I found Laura as I went on a search for someone who could speak to the topic of Reiki with some authority. I found you, and when we spoke, I was so pleasantly surprised at all the other areas of expertise that you have. First, I would love for you to just tell the audience just a little bit more about you.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, outside of what you had said in that lovely introductions, I am a mother of two beautiful young ladies, a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old, married almost 25 years, just turned 50, hit the fifth floor. I am actually a full-time teacher as well. My wellness business is a growing business. I'm doing outside of what I currently do. And I have been actually also teaching for 25 years. This month was my 25th anniversary with
Congratulations.
School Board. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Big year. A lot of good things going on. I live in King City, Ontario, just living the dream.
I really appreciate you being here. And like I said, when we first spoke, I was just floored because I was like, oh my God, I don't know if we can fit all of this into 45 minutes, but we're going to really try. Thanks for the introduction and a little bit more about you. I think the best place to start is, when did you realize you had this gift?
That is a great place to start because it was really Reiki that just catapulted me into the world of wellness. It was my early 40s. I started to feel what a lot of my clients now feel, where there was this fog in my life. I love my life. I have a beautiful marriage and children and many blessings. Something felt a little off. And a friend of mine who happened to live across the street was a Reiki Master, and I had no idea what she was doing, but something drew me to her after she moved off my street. I said, I need to go see her. I didn't know why. I really didn't. I just felt this need. And I went. I had a Reiki session. I had no idea what I was headed for. And it was so powerful. And I had gotten so much clarity through what she was saying, and during the session, what came out for her and what I was experiencing. It was just so incredible. It opened my eyes and I started to learn about Reiki, and that's where everything just started from there. And I've got my degrees and all that.
I know I didn't know what Reiki was until one of my podcast guests brought it up. We talked for about a half hour after we were finished recording. Would you be so kind as to explain the practice of Reiki and what it can do for your client?
What is it as a practice is basically, it's a modality of healing. What happens in a Reiki session is universal life force energy is channeled through the healer. So the healer, such as myself, I'm a Reiki Master, isn't the one doing the healing per se. We're the vessel. So we are the vessel through which life force energy is transferred onto the healee. So a person who comes to a Reiki session comes open for the experience, and the vessel, being the practitioner or the master, channels life force energy onto that person and clears their energy. What a lot of people don't understand is that we are well beyond the physical. There are 5 bodies that we have. Our physical is what we know of. Outside of that is our ethereal. Then we have our emotional body, our mental body, and our spiritual body. And what happens is through life experiences, different our lifestyle, our surroundings, our environment, we develop blockages in our energetic bodies that, if left unattended to, can manifest into the physical. The example that I use, I mostly deal with women, although I've helped several men. But anyways, we have 7 chakras. I should back it up a bit, actually. We have 7 chakras, main chakras. We're sitting on our root chakra, and then from there we move all the way up to our crown, which is just above the head. So those are the 7 main energy centers, but we have chakras all over the body. Imagine these moving spheres, and we're interacting with our environment constantly because everything is energy. And what happens is you develop a block in your energetic bodies, and when that block doesn't get cleared, it goes to your physical. So one of the main chakras that women specifically suffer closure from is the heart chakra. I could go on forever, but I'm just going to kind of fast pace it because we are short on time. But why it is that we suffer mostly blockages in the heart chakra is because we're used to giving love all the time, and we're not open to or as easily available to accept love. And so that interrupts the flow of that energy. And so we get blocks. If that's left unattended, what ends up happening is it manifests to the physical, and it's by no mistake or coincidence that women suffer mostly from heart disease and breast cancer. So there's a real connection there. And so Reiki is the practice of clearing those energies around us so that we are enabling the flow and balance of energy in and out of our centers.
Laura, why are most people seeking help from you when they come to you for Reiki?
People who don't know Reiki were like me on my first time. It was like, I hear about this and I feel like something's off. I'm not sure. I just want to try it. Other people who are well versed in energy, and really is starting to become a little bit more commonplace in our Western world. Although in the Eastern culture, been around for hundreds and thousands of years, we're starting to get a little bit more knowledgeable about, well, actually through the study of sciences now, they're starting to prove that beneath all matter is energy and that we are energy. So if you spend any time in learning about quantum physics, that right there is, unfortunately, in the Western world, everybody wants proof, but at any rate, they come because they feel that something's just not right. And that's really when you start to become in tune with your energy. And, you go into a room, it's by no mistake that if the energies that are around you are not connecting, you feel that feeling. People are like, oh, it just feels yucky. There's something heavy in this room. That's real. That's energy. I find that more and more people are starting to learn about Reiki, starting to get curious, starting to look at it as another modality of healing to complement what it is that they're already doing to care for themselves.
Okay. Can you provide an example of a patient where you really had a breakthrough with Reiki?
When we're in a session, oftentimes we'll have spirit guides present. There was a woman who had a really tough childhood, some really traumatic events outside of her doing that she was carrying for the longest time. And there was an image of her inner child that was presented to me. And the messaging, if we're trying to keep it confidential too, I don't want to say too much, but there was messaging that was sent through her spirit master for me to connect with her inner child so that I could say to her, you need to release, this inner child is within. It was a breakthrough for her because she had never even thought about healing the inner child. And then from there, we worked on it through hypnosis. We did a lot of inner child healing and we built on that.
Okay. That's really interesting. I did get a question from one of the listeners about Reiki specifically.
Mm-hmm.
They asked, how do I know if I have the ability to perform Reiki? And then what does the training look like?
Everybody does. As a Reiki master, I am no more special than anybody else on the planet. We are all energy. We all have the ability to channel energy. This is not something that you're born with magically, you have it over somebody else. Basically, like in terms of the training, I'm trained under the Usui method. That was founded by Dr. Mikao Usui. He was well educated Buddhist master rather, born in the late 1800s. And his approach was he wanted to learn how to heal with hands. So he was out on Mount Kurama. And after 21 days of fasting, he got these images rather of Sanskrit symbols. And so he developed his method based on the use of Sanskrit symbols. And so what happens is you get trained under masters that are in that same lineage, and it gets passed through these first, second, and third degree trainings. After your second degree, you're a practitioner and you're able to perform Reiki. And then on your third, you become a master and you can actually teach Reiki to other people. And there's attunements that happen. So you get attuned by a Reiki master in order to become a vessel. So everybody has the ability. You just need to do the training with a Reiki master and go through the degrees of training. And then it's the Reiki master that attunes you to allow that flow of energy that I spoke of earlier.
I did a little research, and there are a few here in the area where I live. So it's becoming more common. This was also a question, and we'll get into hypnosis too, but the listener asked, can you hypnotize someone or do Reiki over like Zoom, or do you need to be in their presence?
Okay, that's a great question, actually, because I do hypnosis mostly on Zoom. I can do Reiki as well. The thing is, you have to understand that as energetic beings, we are connected to one source globally, well, universally, really. Let's get technical there. So you can perform Reiki on someone anywhere. I'm in Toronto, Ontario. I have a client out in British Columbia that I see. She's on the other side of Canada. There's another woman that I see frequently in Florida. So the way I do it, there are a number of methods to do it, but the way I do it is we have a Zoom call and she or he will be on a bed, lights out, camera on, music in their head, completely relaxing. And then I'll do it on my table. I'll have them energetically on my table and we'll go through. Some people, there's variations. That's my preference. And it's been very powerful. There was a gentleman once, I picked up a lot of energy on his left knee. And I said, wow, there was so much energy on your left knee. Is everything okay? He goes, oh, I'm going for surgery tomorrow on my left knee.
Oh.
And he wasn't on my table. He was downtown Toronto.
Oh, wow.
Energy it spans all space. So you can perform Reiki on anybody, anywhere.
That's fascinating. Again, about demystifying things. Hypnosis, I was joking with you in the notes that I sent you prior about people think of hypnosis, they think of Las Vegas opening act for Engelbert Humperdinck or something. People are a little leery of hypnosis. They think of, oh, I'm going to quit smoking. That's where they draw the line at hypnosis. But it's way more than that.
Actually, you joked about it, but it's actually very true. I did chuckle when I read your email because they think that, a lot of people feel we're really in the hypnosis field. My colleagues and I, that's a big thing that we talk about is that I feel like almost 60% of my role as a hypnotist is to let people know that if this is not Hollywood hypnosis, that doesn't exist. What happens with this whole notion of Hollywood hypnosis is that people are afraid. They think I'm going to tap them in the forehead or say some magical word and I'll take over their body and mind and everything and I have complete control. That is absolutely not true. There is nobody that can ever control your mind other than yourself. Period. In a state of hypnosis, you are talking with the hypnotist. There's conversation happening. And at any time, the person being hypnotized can open their eyes and there's no damage to them. It's just, but I'll tell you, and all the people that I've been working with for the past 2 years, no one's ever opened their eyes because they're so relaxed. It's a very relaxing experience. It's different than meditation. Because the meditation's goal is so that you can relax. And if you fall asleep, lovely. Hypnosis is not that. It's the goal of hypnosis is change. And I work with people for change on so many levels. Yes, smoking, there's weight loss, anxiety, a lot of mental rehearsal, hypnosis with athletes. We do a lot of phobias, fears. There really is nothing that hypnosis can't address. So it's not limited to, oh, I just want to quit smoking. Although you're right, I do hear that a lot. Oh, you must help people with smoking. Well, yeah, that's one of the things I do, but it's really limitless.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my husband this morning about hypnosis, and I was telling him about the conversation that you and I were going to be having today. He said, "Oh, I'm not hypnotizable." He goes, "No one could ever be able to hypnotize me." I said, "I don't know about that. I'm going to ask Laura."
There's many layers to that statement, because where is that coming from? That's coming from, I'm not that person that's going to be on the stage and it's going to get hypnotized and run around like a chicken without a head, naked and all that other stuff. I think the first unpacking there is saying, okay, what is hypnosis to you? And then the second layer is there is a little bit of an element of truth there, because if he's afraid or closed, then no. I'll tell you what happens in hypnosis. What we do is it's like a guided meditation in a sense, but the goal, like I said earlier, is for change. And so what happens is we go into alpha brainwave length, okay, which is you're able to actually, so right now we're in beta. And so our brain waves, if you could see them on a graph, they're very, very active. Below that is alpha state, which is a creative, alert, relaxed state. Below alpha is theta. That's where you're like, where you meditate, right? And then from theta, you can go right into delta and fall asleep. And that's where your brain waves are very smooth and whatever. From beta, we go into alpha. We don't want to go into theta because we don't want people falling asleep. Because like I said, we chat. We're talking through the whole experience. What happens then is that you're in this relaxed state. And by being there, we're bypassing the conscious mind. The conscious mind is where we analyze, we think, we plan. We're like, our short-term memory is stored, and that's a very active state. When we can bypass that, we can access the subconscious mind. That's where change is. That's actually 90% of our mind is our subconscious. Now, if you are closed, scared, worried, reluctant, unbelieving, your conscious mind is going to be so alert. You are not going to get into the alpha state. We're going to be right there in that 10% of your mind, and you're not going to get into the subconscious mind. So you have to come open. My husband's the same. When I said I was going to start getting into hypnosis, and I've had to train him. And to be honest with you, the more you do it, the deeper you go. The first experience with hypnosis is really introductory. When I book clients, I always say give me 4 sessions. Because the first one, we're going to dip your toes in the pool, so to speak. And then we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper every time. Again, always having that ability that if it's not something's freaking a person out, they can open their eyes, but they never do. It feels so good.
Yeah.
In that subconscious mind is where we're doing the work. That's where our long-term memory is. And just so you know, as a matter of interest, everything you've ever experienced in your life is in your long-term memory. Every memory is there. The only time you don't have memory is when you are completely inebriated. You are so drunk that you don't even know your name. That's when your memories are not registering. But everything else is there. You got your long-term memory, your emotions, your feelings, habits and relationship patterns, addictions, involuntary bodily functions, your creativity, your developmental stages, your spiritual connection, your intuition. It's all in that 90% of the mind. We don't access this when we're in beta. We can access it when we're in alpha, and we go in and we work with those memories, we work with those emotions, we work with those addictions, so on and so forth.
Say I was a smoker and I was coming to see you. It's probably not a one and done, correct?
Well, some people promise that. I don't believe in that. First of all, we have to deal with what has caused the addiction. What's the underlying behavior that started that in the first place? It's a little bit more than, oh, I was a teenager and I started smoking. You maintain that addiction for a reason. We need to dig and find out where, and 9 times out of 10, stress and anxiety. So let's figure out what that is, and then let's deal with that. Because when that trigger is no longer a trigger, the addictive behavior pattern sizzles away because you don't need that anymore. You've dealt with the actual core of the issue. I like to work with a client that way. It just is that much more powerful because you bring in a number of things, right? And once we shift and adjust one area of a life, everything else starts to click too. I go a little deeper. That's just my practice. I feel like that's the coach in me too, that wants to address all the pieces. That's why I feel like my approach is multimodality, because I don't feel that we are so singular. We need to work on all of these other pieces to make it all gel and come together.
That really does make sense.
Mhm.
I do want to make sure that we hit on the past life regression therapy, because this is super interesting. And I didn't even think about that till you had brought it up when we first spoke. First of all, I think it would be really helpful if you could define what regression therapy is and how the process works.
Past life regression is basically really diving into the journey of the soul. Hypnosis is one piece. We're looking into dealing with things that are patterns, these addictions, these whatever issues, anxiety and whatnot that's going on right now. When we go into past lives, we're really going into the realm of seeing where our soul has been. And it's based on the understanding that, of course, we are a soul living a physical experience, and our physical bodies are mortal, but our souls are not. And the soul travels many journeys, crosses many planes, in the ultimate goal to become enlightened and just to live or achieve rather a higher level of consciousness. This touches on issues too, where people are non-believers or believers of reincarnation. Like, I know there's that religious element that some highly religious people are completely close to this. That's another talk altogether. We don't want to go there. However, basically what happens is, as our soul goes in and out of different physical experiences, it does so in order to learn important lessons so that it can be guided through its process of enlightenment. In every physical experience, sometimes this is achieved and sometimes it's not. Basically, we're trying to get to the spiritual evolution, and things happen in our lives. We don't close a life properly. Something traumatic happens and a life is ended very quickly, or a life is ended, a physical experience is ended with some traumas that were unresolved. Those can carry on to the next life. In a regression therapy, one of the things we do is we go back into these soul experiences and we close these different lives. We make peace with whatever the situation was. We forgive, we love, we share. There's a number of things that have to happen. And then we close the life and we move forward. Now, you don't go into a therapy saying, oh, I want to do da 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 when I go back. I want to see all this stuff. It's about trusting the soul knows where it needs to go. You come into this session, it feels like a hypnosis session. It is a degree of hypnosis, but you're now opening to the journey of the soul. What you're doing, it's almost like you're watching a movie and you're trusting that your soul is going to take you where you need to go. And you go into different lifetimes. I've experienced many myself, gone back to 1,000 years ago and hundreds of years ago. And it's very powerful, but the experience is formed on that understanding and that trust that the soul is going to do what it needs to do.
But it's not always negative. Does the soul sometimes take you to really positive, happy experiences?
That's a great question. I hope I'm not giving that impression that it's a negative thing, because I'll tell you that sometimes the closure isn't as dramatic as one might think of these past lives, or sometimes you just go into to see things. The soul wants you to see certain things so that what's happening in your current physical experience starts to make sense, or habits that don't make sense. Oh gosh. Okay, let me give you an example of someone. Odd fascinations is something that a lot of people come to me with. This one woman came to me. This is the most common one I like to share. She couldn't wear scarves. And she's like, I don't get it. What is the deal with me wearing scarves? I said, I have no idea. And she said, okay, can we try this regression thing? Maybe there's something in the past life. I've heard about this and da 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 da. So I said, okay, well, let's do it. She was regressed to a time where she was actually a slave and she was imprisoned. Her neck was chained. We went through this experience, and then when she was brought back, it all made sense. And the closure was achieved. She made peace with that, closed that lifetime, came back, and other experiences that she went to. Because sometimes you'll go back into 2, maybe 3 lives in a session, depending. And then when she came out, it was like, oh, now I get it. Some people are really super knowledgeable of different times, different eras, and they would probably never have studied it, but all of a sudden they know so much about Egyptians. And it's like, why am I so interested? And why do I know so much about Egypt? I've never even studied Egyptians. That's another person that I had an experience with. And there was some trauma in that particular person's life as well, but you don't relive the trauma. You see it. That's what I said too. It's like watching a screen. You're watching it as if you're watching yourself in a movie. You're not reliving. So that woman with the chain wasn't reliving that she had been chained. She says, oh, wow, I see myself. I'm a slave. They have something around my neck. It's not that, oh, I can't breathe. It's none of that. And of course, we're trained also, if it were to go that way, how to get people out. But again, my own experience right now so far in these past couple of years, it hasn't happened. But if it were, we are very well prepared for stuff like that. But it's about watching your life from a higher perspective and looking at what's happening. And we talk through and we work through a lot of whatever it is that the person is experiencing.
When you're doing the past life regression therapy, are you asking questions along the way?
Absolutely. We go into the regression through what, like I said, looks like hypnosis. And then I absolutely ask questions. And I record the session. That was something I should mention. The session is recorded. That also helps the person realize that I don't need to watch this and then remember everything because Laura's recording it. I have not so much a scripted approach, but I know how to pull out pieces as they're saying where they are. Who's around you? What are you hearing? And I think it's also important to note that sometimes you'll see people, they look familiar, and that's because we travel with soul circles. The people we know in this current experience, we have known in past experiences, in past lives, but they may not look the same. They may not be the same gender or whatever, but you know that that's the same person. And we travel with each other because sometimes there are debts we have to clear. Our karma. Karma is like the debts that we have to pay. So for example, if we lived a life of greed, that becomes a debt to pay in the next life that we have to work through. That's another question that I'll ask when somebody is present and they're conversing or they're seeing someone and watching things. I'll say, do you recognize that person? It's a very, I want to say, active conversation. The person is not lost. The person is not going through a situation where they don't hear me anymore and they get lost in some, like, I don't know, whatever. It is me and my client talking through everything. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you hear? Go here, go there. There's certain places that I direct them, certain things that I direct them to do to help deepen their knowledge of what they're seeing. It really does become customized to the experience because it depends on where it is that they found themselves. What are you doing now? Are you running? Are you walking? Are you sitting? What do you see? All of that. There's a lot of guiding questions.
Okay, that's really interesting. And then have you ever done past life regression therapy on someone because something came out of hypnosis that you were like, we need to dig into this a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole process for me. That's why I actually went into hypnosis in the first place, because you can only go so far with talk therapy. You can coach and coach and coach, and sometimes that's all a person needs. But sometimes you reach a point where they're kind of spinning in mud and you realize, I think we need to go deeper here. We need to go beyond the conscious and start to see what's really going on. And so that's where my whole interest in hypnosis was born. That's what we do. We'll go from the coaching and then I'll bring in hypnosis. And then, yeah, absolutely. If you see that what's coming out just doesn't make sense. Sometimes things come out and it's like, well, why would I have thought that? Why would I have felt that? Then it's like, okay, well, you open to past life regression. Let's go a little further. Let's see what's gone on prior to. And I've never had to date someone who's already in my care and my coaching practice. They know who I am. They know their options. So far, most people will go, but it doesn't have to be for everyone. It just depends.
But they trust you. And I think that's nice. You established that on the front end.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that part of your coaching business is that you are really becoming known for being a self-love coach.
Yes.
I think this is fascinating because I really feel that that's probably the first step for a lot of people's healing.
Absolutely. It's been incredible, to be honest with you, because, when you go into the wellness space, there's so many places you could go. And I feel that over the years, I'm starting to really, this is what happens. You start to hone in. It's been coming up with clients. They're like, wow, you're teaching me to love myself again. And they're like, you're like the self-love coach. And I'm like, actually, I think I am.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful evolution, because when somebody sees, oh, she does this, like, it's like the umbrella. And that's what's happening, because my clients are learning to love themselves again. They come to me with all of these issues where they're operating from a place of fear in their life, stress, depression, emptiness. It's when we start to dig through, it's not about learning, it's about unlearning, right? It's about unlearning all the things that brought them there. And then what happens, what surfaces, is this love for themselves that they didn't even realize they had, or they didn't even realize that that was huge, and how important it is to love yourself. I always say, love yourself first. People say, oh, that's such a greedy thing to say. And absolutely not.
No, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely. Do you expect a car that's a gas car? Because now there's electric cars. But do you expect a car to run with an empty tank of gas? You can't. And we're no different. And that goes back to energy. We have to have that channel of energy open, where we're giving, we're receiving, we're giving, we're receiving. When we are no longer receiving or accepting love, therefore not allowing ourselves to love ourselves, we're shutting down that flow of energy. It's never going to end well. It will manifest physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Open that channel, and then just amazing what flows. So self-love is it.
This really parallels. So we had a recent guest on the show, Peg Rupert, who has started a coaching business for women who have been through divorce. It's really for women who are ready to pick up the pieces and say, I'm ready to move on.
Beautiful.
A lot of this is creating that self-awareness of all the wonderful things that you are. And it's about self-love. I mean, it really is just that integral first step that you've got to hit before you can fix all the other stuff.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that sounds like she's doing beautiful work. The self-love piece is essential. It really is. We go through life with all of these layers of expectations that are put on us from outside factors, society, family, and so on. Our essence gets so buried, and we don't have it. We feel guilty to make ourselves a priority. We feel guilty to say, I love myself. And that, from there, everything goes sideways. Everything.
You do a lot of motivational posts on social media, which I really enjoy.
Thank you. I try.
You really put a lot of effort into it, and I really enjoy reading them.
Thank you.
You turned 50 this year.
Yay.
I'm kind of curious what your takeaways and life lessons are that you're taking into your midlife years.
Yeah, thank you. That still feels a little weird. That happened on January 3rd, but I feel great. The thing is, I think I've come to really experience a huge shift in my life. I've always, in my adult life, really valued taking care of myself in every sense, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritual. Always been a top priority. But I feel like now that I'm on the fifth floor, the shift is even deeper. And I think that everything I do now, I'm operating from a soul level. And I feel like my work in Reiki and the regression therapy and hypnosis has really opened my eyes to life. I have a totally different perspective. And I truly feel that I am basking in self-love now. I certainly didn't experience that in my teens. I mean, I worked through all these issues in my 20s and 30s. And once I started to commit in my 40s to myself, to this wellness journey that I'm on as a person first, and then, of course, now as a coach, I feel that this has been a huge paradigm shift in my life. I've gone from doing things that I have to do to doing things that I want to do, things that feed me, feed my soul. I feel I'm coming from a perspective of deep love for myself, and that everything from there now is just so much clearer. The pieces are falling together a lot nicer. I feel there's much more harmony with everything in my life.
Do you feel like it's positively impacted not just you, but your relationships and your marriage and everything else?
Everything I do. So the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. When you start to clear up your own issues, when you start to take care of you, it's like throwing a rock in a pond and that beautiful ripple effect. Yes, of course, my marriage, I have been very blessed with a wonderful marriage. I feel like it's deeper now. And I feel like I've helped my husband because he was very traditional Italian, Sicilian kind of guy, very closed. And I'm sure he'll laugh when he hears this, very close to a lot of this stuff. He's so open to it all. And he's loving it, and he's learning, and he's growing in his own way and working through his own stuff. And it's great. And my relationship with my children is also very different. I feel like I back off and I try my best to really see them as their own souls and their own journeys. It changes friendships. I hope I'm having an impact. I have some beautiful friends in my life. It's not about having a million friends. It's not about having all these people around you, but the ones that I'm keeping close are the ones that I'm just savoring. And I feel that deep connection on a completely different level now than in the past.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good. Beautiful journey.
That's really great. Laura, you do a lot. I mean, I ran down the list of all the things that you do for clients. Is there anything new for you on the horizon?
Well, and this is great. I'm kind of doing like a little mini launch, a little announcement. I am actually working on close to launching self-love oracle cards. This is a beautiful product that I'm going to be sending out there to the world. Hopefully people love it as much as I do. And it's a card deck of 31 days of self-love. It's literally just open like you would do any oracle card. You just flip a card and there's like a 5 or 10 minute thing that you can do every day to show yourself that you love yourself. So that's a project that I'm trying to feed all of the lovely little tidbits and things that I teach my clients. And I'm also writing a book.
Oh, I'm not sure how you have time to do that because you're teaching.
It's taking a long time.
Yeah, I know, right? You're teaching too.
Yeah.
When did you decide to write a book?
It's always been in my heart. And as a teacher, I always thought I was going to write a children's book. And maybe one day I will in the area of wellness. Who knows? I met who has now become my book coach. She will be my editor. Susan Crossman has been holding my hands all through this process. She is the most inspirational woman in terms of being that guide. I met her in a group call. It was on this other group call for an organization of women. And she was introduced and she started talking and everything she said clicked. Thought, wow, I need to write a book. I met with her and she just brought it so much up for me that it was like, this is something I need to do. This is like a heart project. I'm so excited and I love it when I sit down and do, but this is like a full book and it's taking a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know when that's coming out, but my cards are going to be out soon.
Okay.
The book will definitely be out. I'm almost halfway there.
What I would ask you to do is, number one, let me know when the cards are available so I can share that out there to the listeners. Let me know when the book is finished. And I know those take time.
Oh, yeah.
But I also would love for you to let the listeners know how to get a hold of you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, by the way. I will definitely keep you posted. On Instagram, my handle is revival_health and life coaching. My website, you can find everything there. Contact information, whatnot, is www.revivalcoaching.ca.
CA stands for Canada, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I always get confused with .ca and .com, but it's .ca.
Perfect. I'll put all that in the show notes. Laura, this was enlightening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. This was great.
I really appreciate the opportunity. I love your energy. I love your show. I'm now subscribing and you're just fabulous. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Truly honored to be a part of this. It's just been wonderful.
Thank you, Laura. Follow Asking for a Friend on social media outlets and provide a review and share this show wherever you get your podcasts. Reviews and sharing help us grow.